almost 3 years ago, the Detroit Lions had a blockbuster trade where they swapped quarterbacks. But they didn't just swap quarterbacks, they also swapped their team's fortune and future in being able to get a new leader that has now established himself as a franchise quarterback for the team, and has also established a new term for the type of offense that the Lions have had over the last 2 years. We're going to talk about it in today's episode, folks, so stay tuned. It started with an owner who had a last name fans despised, hiring a coach that the experts thought was crazy.
But I got a plan, I swear to you.
Who traded for a QB that was said to be washed up. They said the Detroit Lions would never amount to anything, that it would always be the same old Lions. But this team, our team, has a new identity, defined and expressed by the crazy head coach.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes, I will beat your ass.
Led by the QB that nobody thought was good. Motor City Mania is in full swing and ready to start. So join the show and be prepared for kneecap biting, because Motor City Mania starts right now. Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and we're diving in right now. But as always, I just want to say thank you all to those that are coming back to the show. Thank you all for your view, your support, your patronage. And for those that are just tuning into the show for the first time, welcome in. Hopefully you enjoy the content. And also, I hope you guys become new subscribers so that way you can keep coming back and we can keep having fun talking about the Lions. As always, God bless, and let's talk about today's show. So, here's the thing, folks. When we think about the Detroit Lions, at least over the last, 20-something years, the Lions really haven't had a whole lot to really be proud of. There haven't really been a whole lot of things that, you could say, hey, you know what, this is something that the Lions have done particularly well. This is something that the Lions have been, known for, other than, well, frankly, just losing. But here's the thing. When you take a look at what the Lions have been able to do over the last 2-3 years, it's just an absolutely miraculous. It's just been absolutely stupendous, the amount of turnaround that the Lions have been able to foster in the last 2-3 years, especially when you go from 2022 to where we are right now. You have to think about it, really, because at this time last year, the Lions were 1-4, not 4-1. And our defense was one of the worst in the leagues, even though our offense was one of the best. So it's like there's been a lot of change even within the last year, and there's been a hell of a lot of change within the last 3 years. And it's not just one side of the ball or the other. Both sides have done a lot of changing. And that's why I'm going to be doing 2 episodes today, kind of talking about both sides of the ball here. But this episode is going to be talking about the offense here, because we have to think about this really quickly here. What has happened with this Lions offense has just been absolutely ridiculous. Like, if you go back to 2021, like I kind of started with the whole intro for the show here, the Lions traded, obviously, away Matthew Stafford, traded him to the Rams. We picked up Jared Goff. We got 2 first-round draft picks and a 3rd round also in that deal. And if you go back to the narrative that was surrounding that trade, almost everybody, not me included, but almost everybody said that Jared Goff was nothing more than a throw-in. He was a bridge quarterback. There was nothing that the Lions were really looking forward out of Jared Goff than, maybe filling him in for a year or 2 while they tried to find their next guy. I was one of, if not the only person really, that said, listen, Jared Goff's not a bridge quarterback. Listen to everything that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are saying. He's going to be their guy. They're moving forward with Goff. And if you guys were a part of my previous channel, you guys know that my track record as a podcaster was built upon that. And I still hold to it because, again, there are still people out there that just don't like Goff because of how he plays. They don't like his style, whatever the case might be. Not getting into that. But you have to think about how far of a transformation not only has the Lions offense come through, but also how Jared Goff himself has come through. And so that's what we're going to be kind of looking at here today, is not only the transformation of Goff, but also the transformation of this offense. So again, you go back to 2021. This offense, for the better part of the first 2/3 of the year, couldn't do anything. And more than anything, at this point, after taking a look at the evidence we now have, I attribute that 110% to freaking Anthony Lynn's inability to get this offense to function. Because if you think about it, Anthony Lynn was a seasoned play caller. He had been a head coach. And with Jared Goff in this offense, he simply could not do anything. But yet, when Ben Johnson becomes the offensive coordinator, it's a complete night and day difference. Freaking Ben Johnson's able to get this offense humming and rolling almost instantaneously, where freaking Anthony Lynn could not get anything going. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about Anthony Lynn in the 2021 offense, because Anthony Lynn pretty much couldn't do jack crap because he was just so ineffective as an offensive coordinator. That's why freaking Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson had to step in to take over play calling duties and pretty much setting up the game plans, because that was how ineffective he was. Now we get to 2022. This is where we're going to start talking about Ben Johnson here. And again, the relationship that has been documented between Ben Johnson and Jared Goff, it's well documented. I made a video about it on my previous channel. Unfortunately, that video no longer exists, but the point of the matter is the relationship that Goff and Ben Johnson have is just absolutely very strong. It's unique. It's absolutely perfect for what the Lions are using the offense for right now. But when you take a look at what Ben Johnson has been able to get this offense to do as far as historical record, as far as, just getting, records and trends, it's absolutely just I'm sorry, I'm getting too excited here, but it's absolutely stupendous. Over the last 13 straight games, Ben Johnson has gotten this Lions offense to have 20 points or more in those 13 straight games. That is the longest active streak currently in the NFL. The next closest team, I think, is the San Francisco 49ers, and I think they're now at 11 games where they've had 20 plus points or more. And that was after last night's victory over the Cowboys. But again, the Lions have 13 straight games where they've put up 20 points or more on offense. That's pretty damn good. That's very hard to do, even in the NFL of today, where it's just pretty much a points frenzy. When you're able to score 20-plus points a game for 13 straight games in a row, your offense and your offensive coordinator is definitely doing something right. And just to put this in perspective, this streak goes all the way back to Week 10 against the Chicago Bears when we won 31-30, which also, coincidentally, was the very first road victory that the Dan Campbell era had, which, again, that was also a pretty big victory in that sense, because up until that point, we couldn't win on the road. So that victory has a lot of trendsetters right there. It was our first road victory. It was the first victory as far as this, straight 20 points or more for the last 13 games. There's a lot of stuff that comes out of that victory. But let's think about this as well, folks. Ben Johnson, absolutely a credit to this Lions offense. Absolutely just stupendous. His creativity, his work ethic, his ability to be innovative, absolutely unparalleled in my opinion. But you have to think about it this much. How do we look at an offense is kind of interesting here, because obviously the coaching staff is very important. The passing game coordination, the running game coordination, the offensive coordinator, that's all important. But here's the thing. What also matters is the players you have on the field that make that offense run. And here's the one thing. If you take a look at this offense over the last 2 years, ever since Ben Johnson has been the offensive coordinator, there have been a lot of pieces that have definitely kept the offense moving smoothly. And we've had different skill position players that have come in and out, and that's part of the business of the NFL. But there's only been one piece that has been with the offense since the very beginning, virtually, and that's Jared Goff. Now, that's where we're going to start talking about this new term that a lot of people have now started to use a lot more since last year. It's starting to really catch on this year, and that's called Goff-fence. And I love that term because it's kind of like a playoff of offense and golf as well, but it works perfectly for what the Lions are doing right now. Because let's think about this realistically. If you take a look over the last 2 years since Ben Johnson's been the offensive coordinator, and hell, you go all the way back to when Jared Goff first got here, only one player has been on the field virtually almost every single game, save the 3 games that Jared Goff got injured and was out with COVID in 2021, that has been a part of the team on offense, and that is Jared Goff. But I'm not talking about 2021, because 2021 I don't think is a fair barometer of what this offense really is, especially right now. We're going to talk about since Ben Johnson's been the offense coordinator. And since Ben Johnson has been the OC, Jared Goff has also been freaking rejuvenated. And I told people a long time ago that that was exactly what was going to happen, and it has proven itself every single week virtually ever since, Ben Johnson and Jared Goff got paired together. So much so, let me just put this out there for you. Since Ben Johnson and Jared Goff have been put together, since they've been paired together as offensive coordinator and quarterback, the Lions offense has averaged 27 points a game, has averaged 381 yards a game of offense, 250 passing yards, and 131 rushing yards. That's over the last last 22 games, pardon me, because there were 17 last year, we played 5 this year. So over the last 22 games, that's what the Lions offense has been able to do with Ben Johnson and Jared Goff at the helm. That's pretty damn impressive. You're getting a lot of points, you're getting a lot of yards, you're getting a lot of production. Now, this also happens with a lot of other stuff going on here, because let's be fair here. Like I said, Jared Goff has been the only constant for this Lions offense over that period of time, because let's think about this. The Lions have had an often incomplete offensive line, either due to injury or other things that have been coming on, because Taylor Decker's been out with injury, Frank Ragnow's been out with injury. We've seen a couple of other players that have come in and out with injury. I mean, the offensive line for this Lions team has very seldom, if ever, really been together totally as a fully functional unit. We've only seen it twice in the last 3 years. That's not really a whole lot. And so, let's also think about the skill position players. That's also been a place where there's been a lot of people that have been coming in and out of the lineup. I mean, you go last year, DeAndre Swift was out in and out of the lineup with some injuries. Same thing with Jamal Williams a few times. Then you go to the wide receiver group, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've also been in and out of the lineup with injuries. Jahmyr Gibbs this year has been out with injuries. Same thing with David Montgomery. Hawkinson from last year. The only constant that has been the same for this Lions offense has been Jared Goff. And that's been going up against a variety of different opponents with different defensive schemes, and they've all been trying to find ways to shut down this offense. But again, despite all of that, this offense, as I just demonstrated about 2 or 3 minutes ago, has still been able to put up almost 30 points a game, almost 400 yards a game, and has been very, very productive in both the running and passing departments as well, despite all the injuries that have been going in and out of the freaking lineup. So that's really, really important to consider here when you're thinking about how good this offense has been with Ben Johnson and Jared Goff. And again, just to put this in perspective of just how good Jared Goff has been with Ben Johnson and vice versa, take a look at this. This is going to blow your guys' mind away. Since Jared Goff has been with Ben Johnson, so since the merger between those two, Jared Goff has posted 10 100-plus passer rating games, 12 90-plus passer rating games, 6 300-plus passing yard games, 7 times he's posted 3-plus passing touchdown games. He's posted 65 completion percent or better 13 times, and has also posted the highest passer rating off of play action 2022, has the 3rd longest pass streak without an interception in NFL history since last year going into this year, and was voted number 66 out of all NFL players on the top 100 by the NFL players. When you consider just how damn prolific that both Goff and Johnson have been together, it's just absolutely mind-numbing, because it's like, listen, these two have been perfect for each other. That's why I said the relationship between the two is very, very well documented, and I'm just, the proof is in the pudding. The product that we have seen on the field is you can't defend against it. You have no ability to defend against what we've been able to see on the field. It's indefensible. That's just the best way I can put it. And again, you have to think about this as well, because just stats are one thing. And I'm going to admit, I'm a stats person. I love my stats. But despite the offensive stats, either from, what Ben Johnson has been able to do with this offense, what Jared Goff has been able to do when Ben Johnson has been with him, you have to take a look somewhat past the statistical production here to actually get a further understanding of just how good this offense really, really is. And again, that's why I'm saying you can't quantify this stuff that I'm about to talk about on a stat sheet. And here's what I mean about this. First and foremost, let's just take a look at the sheer innovation and creativity that Ben Johnson has with this offense. Again, we saw it yesterday in the game against the Panthers. That freaking triple like flea flicker, whatever you want to call it. I think they said on the post game they called that the Ben Johnson special or whatever. I don't know what you want to call it, but it was creative as hell, because that very same play was then executed by the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday Night Football about 7-8 hours later. So again, you're seeing how other teams are starting to use plays that Ben Johnson has, and they're starting to incorporate it a little bit into their playbooks. So again, when you have a guy like Ben Johnson who is that damn creative that other teams are starting to use what he uses in his playbook, that right there is a pretty big nod towards the Lions offensive coordinator and to the Lions offense in general. So that's number one. And again, it's not just that play. We've also seen other very creative plays from Ben Johnson. We've seen, you go back to the very first year in 2021, that end-around throw from Tom Kennedy to Khalif Raymond. That was part of Ben Johnson's play call. Then you go back to the Penei Sewell catch out of the freaking the tackle sweep that was coming off the left side to the right side. Again, also very creative from Ben Johnson. So again, Ben Johnson is one of the most creative, innovative offensive thinkers in the NFL right now. And we've seen it several times throughout his time as the offensive play caller or designer. So that's point number one. Point number two, you also have to take a look at the execution of this offense right now on all levels. Yes, there has been a bit of a lull problem in the third quarter, but otherwise, the offense is executing very, very well on almost every single level that you can possibly think of. Case in point, we've seen how this running game has continued to evolve, has continued to get better and better with adding in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Part of the reason for that is because the wide receivers are getting down the field and they're doing excellent blocking down the field. We saw Jameson Williams do it a couple of times yesterday. We've seen Amon-Ra St. Brown, Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds. The wide receiver blocking for run blocks is something that is vastly overlooked for some players, but for the Lions, it's a heavy emphasis for them, and it works so well with them being able to get those big runs. Then you take a look at the wide receivers and their ability to precisely run routes. Jared Goff right now is completing 70% of his passes. And while that does come in some part to Jared Goff's precision as a thrower and his accuracy, when you have wide receivers that know exactly what kind of routes to run, they're in fine-tuned chemistry with Jared Goff as the quarterback, you now have the precision, the effectiveness that the offense is used to having, which allows this offense to really take command of games. And then, let's take a look at this other part here, the low penalties. I'm going to say this right now. One of the areas that used to drive Lions fans up a damn wall was how ineffective and inefficient we were with penalties. We always used to get called for the dumb penalties, the false starts, the delay of games, whatever, the holding penalties. We used to get called for that all the damn time. But now, if we get called for penalties, it's actually a little bit of a surprise because it doesn't happen nearly as much anymore. And again, that comes to execution, proper planning, and coaching that the players then execute on the field. And again, that all goes back to Ben Johnson as a coach. And then finally, talking about the players on the field themselves, how Jared Goff spreads this offense around, how he has complete and total command of the offense. Because think about it, while Jared Goff loves to throw certain players, a.k.a. Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is like the main component of this offense through the passing game, he spreads the ball around pretty effectively to everybody, whether it's Sam Laporta, Josh Reynolds, whoever you have, Khalif Raymond, and a bunch of other guys. There's not one particular guy that's getting the majority of the freaking production. And the reason I'm saying this is because we've seen it in the times past when the Lions have had really good offenses, a.k.a. Matthew Stafford and Megatron. Pretty much Megatron was the only guy that was generating our offense with Stafford. But that's not the case anymore. Jared Goff is spreading the ball around and is allowing that production to go everywhere, which again helps the offense out because it means defenses can't key on one specific player to try and stop them. So again, the execution of the offense on all levels, whether it's the coaching staff, whether it's the players, absolutely immaculate. And then the final thing I have to talk about here that you can't quantify on a stat sheet is this, the leadership component. You have to think about it here. There are so many leaders that are on that offensive unit and just hell, on the team in general. But again, we're talking about the offense here. But if you take a look at the offense, you have Jared Goff, you have Taylor Decker, you have David Montgomery, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Frank Ragnow. There's just so many different leaders on that offense that help keep everybody on the same page, keeps everybody's head level, not letting them get too high, not letting them get too low, but just being like, listen, we're here to work, we're here to do our job, we're here to make sure we win ball games. And when you have that kind of leadership from those main players that I'm talking about, it helps keep everything running smoothly and on schedule. And that is exactly what we've been seeing out of this Lions offense for the better part now of almost a year and a half, ever since Ben Johnson and Jared Goff got merged together. So again, the whole point I'm trying to get here as I wrap this whole thing up is this. When you have a great offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson, when you have a great quarterback in Jared Goff, and you have a good ensemble of supporting cast members such as David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, Sam Laporta, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, I can go on and on and on and on. When you have all of that working together, you have a melting pot that allows you to create this top offense that the Lions have had now for almost 2 years running that is extremely innovative. It's fun to watch, it executes at a very high level, and it is damn explosive. And I'm telling you this right now, I fully expect that we're going to continue to see it as the time goes by into this year, and I fully expect this is going to be another year where the Lions have a top 5 offense, just like they had last year, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Lions get more Pro Bowl votes, and they get also maybe a couple of All-Pro votes. I would like to see if we could also get some awards at the end of the year, maybe an offensive player, defensive player, whatever, but again, that's more of a popularity contest, and usually it goes to the more bigger teams in the NFL. The Lions are getting there, but they're not quite there yet. But my whole point is this. You take a look at this Goff offense that the Lions have right now. While Jared Goff is the quarterback, he's not the main reason that this offense functions. It goes to Ben Johnson. It goes to all the other players that Goff works with. The only thing about this that works for Goff and the Goff offense is that Goff is the quarterback and he is the central component that's been with the team the last 3 years. But if you were to ask Jared Goff would not say that he's the reason the offense works. It's a whole team unit working together. And that's the way the team should look at it. Even though it's nice to say Goff offense, it's the Lions offense working together as one singular unit. So that's my episode for right now. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And as always, I just want to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you liked what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode that I got coming out today. I also encourage y'all please to do one of these 3 things. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you've not had a chance to do so, I highly encourage y'all first and foremost to hit that subscribe button, but I also encourage y'all please make sure you turn on that bell notification icon that's at the bottom of the page, so that way you always are notified when I have new content that's coming out. I also encourage y'all, please share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with anybody and everybody that you can. So that way we can continue to grow and spread the channel. And with that being said, folks, again, I just want to thank you all for your view, your support, your patronage, everything that y'all do. Again, tune in for my next episode that's coming out today. And I just want to say God bless. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.